Hello and welcome to our third wall recorded webinar. This is a recorded version of our standard live webinar we do every week, and it's designed to give you a chance at your own leisure to find out the key things that you want to know about Third Wall. Third Wall is a plugin, a cybersecurity plugin for ConnectWise Automate. So if you don't have Automate, give yourself a break. Don't sit through this because you can't use Third Wall. But if you do, please sit back and let us help you understand all the different things you can do with Third Wall to make your environment safer. This will be pretty simple recorded webinar. It's not going to be a slick production. It's going to be me talking you through what this is, just exactly as I would do on one of our live webinars. So you get warts and all. However, I think you're going to like what you see. Third Wall was designed to help you prevent cybersecurity issues and to help you react to cybersecurity issues. And it's become very popular. And I'd like to start out by showing you a little example of what it can do. We have a policy. I'll take you and show you the screen on Third Wall. And this is in ConnectWise Automate location screen. And you can see here is one called Monitor for Ransomware. This is actually looking for ransomware attacks in progress. One of three things that we do to help prevent or stop ransomware. And this one puts out bait files or canary files to every end user's documents folder and looks for content change. And if it sees content change, it immediately launches actions to mitigate that attack. So let me show you. This is using ConnectWise Control, as you can see, to connect to a virtual computer run by Joe. So Joe is logged in right now into this computer, and I am on his computer. And here are those four canary files or bait files that we've placed into this in this particular computer. I'm going to open one up, and then I'm going to make a change. Now we know what's the content of these, and I'm going to then save this change. And watch what happens. First thing that pops up is, hey, network access is removed. We have disconnected this computer from everything, so it cannot, this attacker cannot spread. This ransomware cannot spread to other computers in the environment. We have disconnected it from everything except for your control server. Notice that control is still up and running, and your automate server. Why? Because then you as the IT team can go in and fix this computer and cause it to be better. In fact, you do that using an automate tool, and we go into the ConnectWise Automate computer screen. I'm going to right click and go to Third Wall. And we'll come back to this page a little bit more later, but notice that there's a green button here called Restore Network. Now, if I go back to this, this says, hey, network access has been removed, and it's gone. So that happened immediately upon the detection of a changed file, which is what ransomware would do. So if I go back here and click Restore Networks after I have fixed it using my ConnectWise remote access tools, then this is going to reverse the process. Let's go back and take a look at that computer. Hey, network access has been restored. Therefore, we allowed you a chance to stop the ransomware by isolating that computer, notifying the end user, notifying you with a ticket, and then once you fixed it, you can restore connectivity and close everything out. And Joe's back in business just like he was to begin with. That's the kind of power that we have with Third Wall. So let's get out of the advanced view and go and show you around Third Wall a little bit more thoroughly, step by step. Okay, so I'm going to close down this computer screen. I'm going to close down this computer screen here on Automate, and let's go back to, let's go back to here. This is my Automate Control Center. Should look very familiar to you. Now, for our webinar, we like to talk about three different things. First off, we're going to talk about our policies. You just saw one of them in action. A lot of them are for locking down your environment. Some of them are for reacting, and some are for other things like creating reports and tickets, notifying you of things. So There, you'll see all of those. Second thing we like to talk about is individual computers. Now, on an individual computer, you can do two things. One is you can make an exception to policies. You don't make policies on computers, you make exceptions to policies on computers, as you'll see, which turns out to be very important for our client base. Second is we have some emergency action buttons, one of which is isolate. Just like you just saw, there's a manual equivalent, and we'll get into those. You'll see they're very useful during certain emergencies. And third, we'll talk a little bit about our reports and data views that I think you're going to like those a lot as well. So this is Third Wall. Let's dive in and take a closer look. In our test and development environment here, you can see that I have two different clients. One of them is called ConnectWise, one is called Third Wall, and we're going to focus on this client called Third Wall today. And we're going to start out using opening up this location called Main Office. Now I had this open a minute ago. Double click it again, and you can see this is where we were. Now this is a standard Automate location screen. In fact, if I go back to the General tab, you'll probably recognize it. But fully integrated into the Automate Control Center is Third Wall once you've installed it, which, by the way, is very simple to do if you haven't already done so. It takes just a couple of minutes, and we do all the hard lifting for you. And there is a Third Wall tab, as you might expect, being fully integrated. And this is what we saw a minute ago. This is our status sheet. We call it the security overview, and it shows you at a glance all of the policies that are available to you in this location and their current status on the computers in this location. We have them all color coded, so it's easy to use. Ease of use is a really important feature of Third Wall. You can see that most of these are yellow. Policy is not even turned on yet. A couple of them are green, where the policy is active on every computer in this location. And we have four other colors that I'll show you during the course of the next few minutes. So this is, again, an at a glance thing. Now, the black lines are not policies. Those are titles of subsections. They correspond with the sub-tabs over on the left, which is where we're going to do our work. The elements on this page are basically not clickable until we get down here into profile controls. But instead, you use this page for status and for navigation, so you can figure out which sub-tab to go to. For instance, let's start here. I want to show you how easy this is to use. We're going to disallow Microsoft accounts. You'll notice that that is under the local built-in account management sub-tab, so I'm going to go there, click on that, and sure enough, there is disallow Microsoft accounts. To turn this on, it's pretty simple. Click the slider switch, it turns green. The save button also turns green. We'll click save, and we are now enabling this protection by disallowing Microsoft accounts. You notice a couple of new fields have shown up. I'll get back to those, but let's talk about what this policy just did. This one's focused on preventing people from logging on to your Windows 10 computers using their personal Microsoft credentials, things like Windows Live, Hotmail, even Windows 10. People can log into your Windows 10 computers using those credentials unless you specifically prohibit them, which we just did. So that will stop them in their tracks. Just as an aside, and we'd like to point out this because it's important, if you turn this on, you would also disable Azure AD in the computers in this location. This does, because Azure AD binds with Microsoft accounts, this will prevent Azure AD. Now, we may find a way around that, but as of this recording, that is something that's going to happen. So you may not be able to use this policy everywhere, but use it where you can. That's the beauty of having an easy-to-use product like this. You can customize based on what your particular environment is, location by location. Very simple to do. Now, if I go back up here to the security overview, you'll see that this is now turned green, and that date that we turned it on is there as well. Same thing as right here. That date is important. You'll see it again in a little while when we start generating reports, because we use it for a report you can hand to your clients, to your auditors, to your managers, whoever's interested in knowing that you are protecting these computers using these policies. You'll see that in a little while. Notice the undo link is also shown up. This is the primary way for removing this policy and all its restrictions, which you're going to want to do every now and then. So remember undo. We'll come back to that. Now, the other thing that we've done when we turn this policy on is we enabled standard Automate remote computer monitor to check the value. In fact, this particular policy was enabled by doing a direct write by our agent. We are certified agent-based plugin. So when you install Third Wall, we automatically install our plugin agent into every Windows computer you have. And just in case you didn't pick up on that, we are Windows computers only. But that agent is sitting there ready to take commands. So when you turn this computer or this policy on, we issued a command. Third Wall issued a command to every computer in this location. And that's an automate command. Very reliable. There are no scripts in this whatsoever. So it's an automate command. And that then does a direct write. No requirement for using group policy or local policy. We do not use those. We don't consider them reliable enough. And we have other things we need to do. So we don't use group policy. It's just not good enough. But we will do a direct write saying, hey, make these restrictions. And in this case, we did. And then we turned on that monitor I was talking about, a remote computer monitor. And it's going to check that setting every 5 minutes, whether this computer's online or not, every 5 minutes to make sure that it is protected by this setting. And if we find that the setting's not there or it's the wrong value, then like group policy, we're going to auto fix it so that your vulnerability is 5 minutes or less. We will catch it within 5 minutes, unlike group policy, which usually takes a couple of hours or even once a day. That's far too long to depend upon group policy for cybersecurity. So we're going to check it, and like group policy, we're going to auto fix it. We're going to auto fix it. But unlike group policy, we're going to also send you a ticket. So if I go to the Automate service desk and bring up the tickets, and I'll look at all tickets so you can see all of them. Some of them are going to start with TW. TW means third wall, as you might guess. And those are tickets generally that we have sent when we had to autocorrect something. We do that because we want you to know that we had to autocorrect, which group policy won't. We will. Why is that important? So that you can then go look at that computer and be proactive. Do I need to do something? What caused it? Who caused it? Is there an ongoing issue here? And then you can jump in and be proactive and much more cyber secure. That's why we send you tickets. And these are standard Automate tickets. They can and will flow through directly to ConnectWise Manage, for instance. If you're using that, you just map it and it will go through just as any other Automate ticket would. So again, really powerful feature. Now that being said, 5 minutes after we have generated a ticket, we will check that value again. And if it is still in the corrected state, the corrected value, then we'll automatically resolve it for you so that we don't become this big open ticket spam machine. But we still think you should go check it out, even if we ended up resolving it. Go check it out, see what happened, and fix it if necessary, okay? So that's turning a policy on. Let's reverse course and turn a policy off. Okay, there's actually 3 ways to do this. So this is important. Pay a little extra attention here. You could go straight to the same switch you used to turn it on. That's the disallow Microsoft green switch here. But if you read carefully, it says, hey, this policy's monitor is going to get turned off, but it's not going to change those underlying restricting values. Therefore, we don't recommend it unless that's what you want to do. Consider an undo instead. And again, we'll come back to undo in a minute. We do allow this. Get rid of the monitor, but not the restrictions. Click Save button again, and we've just done that. Give you another warning. Hey, inconsistent settings may result. If you go back here to the overview, you'll see this is turned orange, which means it was applied and removed, but not undone. Kind of a little danger, Will Robinson color for you geeks in the audience. So, oh yeah, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to turn the policy back on. Okay. And now I'm going to use the other option, which is this undo link. Now, undo for most of our policies gives you 2 options. Not for all, but most policies, it's going to give you these 2 options. One is to simply get rid of this completely, get rid of both the monitor and the restrictive settings. Or you can just do the same thing on a temporary basis. Well, let's just get rid of it completely. Click Save here. And we are now getting rid of the restrictions of this policy. It's back to yellow, as you would expect. Let's turn it on again and use the other option this time. So we're back on. I'm going to click undo, and now I'm going to create a temporary exception. Now, temporary exception is actually a full undo on a timer. And here's that timer with a slider. Anywhere from 5 minutes up to a full hour, we can issue an undo it. And at the end of that time, Third Wall will automatically re-enable this policy and its protections. I'm going to click Save here. We have now temporarily suspended it for 60 minutes, as it says there. And let's go here. This is now pink, and pink means the temporary undo is active. Now, why do we have this? As you quickly see in the next few minutes, third wall is going to help you to really lock down your environment in very, very important ways. You're going to want to do that. At some point, though, it's likely that that may interfere with something that you or your admins need to do on these computers. And you're going to say, how do I get around that? Oh, yeah, temporary undo. Get rid of the restrictions, get rid of the monitor, do what you need to do for up to an hour, and you cannot forget to turn the policy and its protections back on, because third wall will take care of that for you. So that's how the temporary suspension works. Now I'm going to not wait for a full hour. I'm going to click undo. It gives me an option now to remove that suspension, which I'm going to do, and click save. And it's now going back to full on and green. So that's the basics of turning policies on and off. Simple, easy to do. So we, again, want this to be very easy and very powerful all at the same time. Let's go back to this page here, and let's start going through the policies themselves. Now I got 7 pages of these. This is going to take me a few minutes, so bear with me as we go into these, because I want to make sure you understand all the value that you are getting when you get third wall. So on this page, let's start out here and with these policies up here. The first 3 of these policies are all about protecting the local administrator account. Now this is the one that's built into Windows. It's native, that the default name is administrator. We all know about that one. So if you've created a secondary one, then this won't impact that at all. We are gearing here to protect your environment against hackers who also know that there's a built-in administrator account with elevated privileges, and they all know the default local administrator account name, which is, of course, administrator. So let's change that name to something else, right? We're going to change it to Bob. Make their job a little bit harder. And at the same time, we can change the password if we want to. We can change it to something exotic like password 1, right? That will then be stored in an encrypted table, or an encrypted value on a table within Automate. And when you cursor away from it, you can see that it gets hidden, just as many compliance regulations require. Now, we don't claim to be compliance experts. We have a lot of clients who really know what they're doing with compliance, though. And what we do is we keep building stuff that they need to be more and more compliant. So we will be a huge boost to you if you're trying to be compliant with HIPAA or PCI or Elite 8 or GDPR or any of those. So we will help, although we won't claim to be experts. Okay. Notice that these 2 also have an asterisk at the end. The asterisk at the end means that these policies will not apply to Windows servers, but only to Windows workstations. Okay, some of our policies don't apply to servers, as you'll see, and we did that in response to feedback and in conversations with our clients. Some things should not be applied to servers. So you'll also notice how this one is grayed out. You can't do these 2 and this one. They are mutually exclusive. Now, since I've not hit save, I don't have to undo these 2. I can just merely deselect, and select this one, and then those 2 gray out. But one way or the other, most of our clients protect the local administrator account with some combination of these. Okay. Disable guest account, pretty obvious what that does, but why do we need it since the guest account is disabled by default by Windows? Because somebody might change that, and we will catch it within 5 minutes. Because of our monitor, we will auto fix it, we will send you a ticket, and we will include the fact that you're protecting against this whole scenario in a report. So that's what makes this so much more valuable, even for the mundane things like monitoring the guest account. Okay, and you already know about disallow Microsoft accounts. Now I have 2 questions for you on this particular page. One is, if you were to turn the policies on just this page, now I got 6 more to go, do you think any of your end users would even notice that you have turned these policies on, or some combination thereof? And other than Azure AD, which we talked about, I think the answer for most of you is going to be no. No end user will even notice that these have been turned on and are protecting them as we speak. We call those types of policies no-brainers. You can turn them on, end users won't notice, and therefore you will get no pushback. Isn't that a nice solution? Get extra protection with no pushback, because a lot of protection does necessarily involve pushback. from end users who don't want to be restricted. But no-brainers, they're good to go. And some of our policies are no-brainers, some of them are not. Second question on this page, if you were to turn protection on this page, and if you're a service provider who gets revenue off of managing computers, if you went to your client and said, hey, we're protecting you more, would you give me more money? Do you think your client would say, sure, how much? Or, what? What language are you speaking? I don't even know what you're talking about. And why would I pay you more money for that? And I'm going to guess the latter because these on this page don't necessarily resonate with your clients for additional revenue, but some of our policies certainly will. Now, we've on our website, so you'll probably want to go to our website, third-wall.com, do a little bit of browsing around, especially under the Resources tab. Under Resources, we've got this tab called Onboard Your Clients. And this applies to both MSPs, service providers, and to internal IT. Go here and look at this policy matrix. Click here. And we have mapped out our policies on these two dimensions. Are you going to get pushback from end users? If not, we call them no-brainers. Now, again, use a little of your own judgment here. This is our thought process as to what make up good candidates for no-brainers. But hey, deploy these and nobody will probably notice, and you have great protection, no pushback. But then up here, we've got the ask first. Now, anything up here, yeah, you better coordinate first, ask first, make sure that there's announcements as appropriate, because these will get pushback. Things like, oh, locking down personal email access. Yeah, you think you might get a few screams when you do that, of course. On the bottom axis, we've got the benefit to you as a service provider, for those of you who are. On the left-hand side, these are not going to necessarily resonate with your clients and give you additional revenue, but they will prevent issues. Anywhere from fewer tickets, fewer phone calls, and even fewer disasters. Our clients rave about how we have saved them from numerous disasters, and yes, we do. Over on the right-hand side, these will also help prevent issues, but you might be able to generate additional revenue with some of these. Now, the most favorite of our clients right now is this user logon report. They are getting a ton of extra money for that user logon report. Most of them over $1 per endpoint per month in additional revenue, again, for our service provider clients. Internal IT, it still has great value, but you just can't recognize it with additional revenue. So anyway, this is a good one to remember and come back to when you get a chance. So let's go back to the here. So we've done page 1. Let's move to page 2. Lots to go. Page 2 is all about the local user account management. The first 3 here are about protecting the local password with length, age, and complexity requirements. So those are obvious what they do. You might be doing these already with group policy. You probably should. But ThirdWall, again, because of all the extra things that it does, including checking every 5 minutes, is going to be a better option. So you may want to control those from here rather than group policy. Now I've got this one turned on, enforcing password protected screensaver. You'll all recognize that. After a certain amount of idle time, I've got it set to 30 minutes. Then any computer in this location will lock and require a password to continue. Okay, now I can set that 30-minute number up to a couple of hours if I want, or all the way down to 5 minutes. And I'm going to leave it at 5 minutes because we're going to come back to this in a little while. If you're like most of our clients, you provide end users with local admin privileges through group assignments. So they're not local administrators, but you put them in the local admin group and they get elevated privileges, which is good for some things and really bad for other things. And if you want to take away some of the really bad, click here. We can help you take away registry editor, run as admin, PowerShell. Any of these 8 can be taken away from end users. Now, maybe you want them to have those 3. I tell you about half of our clients restrict PowerShell and about half don't. Again, customization is key for your particular situation, for you and or your clients. Okay, so customize this as you see fit and take away the dangerous tools, which, by the way, not only are these dangerous in end users' hands, there is malware that takes over end users' accounts and then has access to these. Take that away so that you can prevent disasters. And we have with this policy many, many times. Now, there's a lot of nuances to this one. I do recommend you go into our documentation and read through it. But some things like, hey, how do you get around this as administrators? Because this will restrict you in many ways. Well, a couple ways. One is run these commands from the tools available to you within Automate itself. Now, Automate runs as the local systems administrator, and therefore ignores these commands, even if you're running it as a script from Automate. So that's one way. Another way is to use that temporary undo that I showed you, although to be honest, that may require a reboot to fully remove all of these. That's one of the nuances. And then last is this. Anybody who signed, if you click this, anybody who signed in as the true built-in local administrator or the true built-in domain administrator will have no restrictions with these. So again, the different ways that we build in, and there's again a few more nuances, but recognize that there are ways that we built in for you to get around our restrictions in many different ways. Windows has UAC. This just mirrors it precisely. Anywhere from level 1 to level 4. Best practice says level 3 or above, but many of our clients set it for level 1 because of ERP interference requirements. So whatever works for you. Again, customization is the key here. End users, you know how end users love to install unwanted software. So let's take some of that away from them. A couple of big roadblocks. This one will prevent anybody from running setup or install executables and any variant thereof. These are wildcards. So yeah, those won't run for those end users. In fact, they won't run for you either. Again, we have some different ways for you to get around it. Most prominently, running them from the Automate Control Center, but there are other ways as well, so that you can run the setup install executables, but your end users cannot. Similar concept with MSI files, Windows Installer, we can disable it. Two radio buttons here though, you can disable all MSI files or click on this one, and this just disables unmanaged MSI files, which according to Microsoft's definition are those MSI files being run by non-administrators. So hey, no administrator, won't work. If you're an administrator, you're good to go. All right. So a lot of different protections again here. Prevent vulnerable software from being installed and a bunch of other good protections. And we're only on page 2. Let's go to page 3, OS security. The first one, as of now, is work in progress. It's still quite useful. What it does is it truly disables the Windows 10 keylogger, better even than the privacy tool that's within Windows. So do that if you'd like. Now this one could interfere with Microsoft Intune. So again, like to do as a little full disclosure, you may not be able to use this one everywhere, but if you can, yeah, absolutely lock it down so that Microsoft can't steal all those keystrokes or capture them and take them back to their huge database in the sky. This one is really a popular one, enable logon message. It's actually 3-in-1. If you're a service provider, this one really helps. You can have protected by me. Of course, you don't put me there. You put your company's name, brand yourself, so that every time somebody logs in, your brand shows up. You can also do a disclaimer to meet HIPAA or PCI requirements, or even just hands-off private property type stuff. And then you can put a special notice. Hey, everybody, leave your computers on tonight after work. Again, everybody will see this when they log on, and it's as easy to change that special notice as I just did. So really simple to do, powerful, kind of like 3 policies in one. Enabling Smart Screen is a no-brainer. You should at least warn people when they're doing stupid stuff to Microsoft browsers, right? So with Microsoft browsers. So yeah, absolutely. Use Smart Screen. We consider that a no-brainer. UPnP and Auto Run, I'm sure you all know what that is. This just disables them. They are somewhat vulnerable. Now, the auto run disable policy, all it does is it suppresses that pop-up that comes up that says, what would you like to do with this disk or stick that you just put in? So once you remove that temptation, it actually helps quite a bit. So use these as you see fit. Here is one of our big heavyweights though. Disable executables running from the app data folder up to 9 layers deep in the app data folder. So it's really powerful at stopping ransomware. Ransomware almost always, can't say always, but almost always still buries itself as an executable in the app data folder and then waits to launch, sometimes in a coordinated fashion across many computers at the same time. We've had some clients who are clients now that weren't then. That is why they're a client, is because that happened to them. So this will stop it cold. And lots of moving parts here. So let's take a little bit deeper look at this one. This symbology, as you might recognize it, is app data roaming, but you can also include local app data in your blocking mechanism. We recommend that now because that is where ransomware has been moving to. You can have us send you an Automate ticket every time we block a file. And we'll send you a ticket with the pathway and the file name on it so that you can figure out, oh, hey, we just blocked ransomware and your heroes. Make sure the appropriate people know about that. Or alternatively, ooh, I didn't want to block that file. I need to whitelist it. Oh yeah, this policy is actually pretty useless without a good, strong whitelisting capability. And we don't have one, we have two, which I'll show you in a minute. The last one, please be a little careful with this. Block all executable types. You may or may not know that exe is only one type of executable. There are 30 additional that Microsoft classifies as executable types. So this will block the other 30. So be careful with that. Go into our documentation, find out what they are, do a little research. If you decide to check this box, you're going to end up wanting to do more whitelisting for sure. Okay? So let's go take a look at our whitelists. What can you whitelist? How do you do it? We have two of them, and of course they're fully integrated into the Automate Control Center. One of them is global, so we put it in the system dashboard. So this is the Automate dashboard, the config integration third wall screen. Okay. Here there are several different options. Global executable block exceptions is one of them. Now, a quick note, notice how it says all edit controls are enabled. That's because I am running as a third wall admin in Automate permissions. This is a new permissions type that's created when you install third wall. So it's there, ready to go. But if you're not a third wall admin, and nobody out of the box is a third wall admin. So if you're not a third wall admin, then this whole page is not available to you, along with some other certain features I'll point out. So if you, even a super admin can't do what I'm about to do, you have to make yourself a third wall admin, again, in standard Automate permissions. So you, if you don't know how to do that, reach out to us. We'll make sure and show you how. But I'm going to go to this global executable block exceptions. This is for whitelisting app data executable blocking. So we're going to make exceptions or whitelist it. Just click add, type in the pathway and file name of the file that you want to run. And again, this is global whitelist. So when you do that and click OK, it will be added to this list and you will be good to run that anywhere across your entire environment. Okay. Very powerful, but perhaps a little bit cumbersome because you have to type them in one at a time. So you can do this, but you can also, or instead of, either way you want to do it, run a secondary whitelisting capability. And that's at the client level, not the global level, but the client level. So if I go back to our control center and open up the client called third wall. Okay, there it is. And of course, there is a third wall tab, right? There is the tab. Now, this actually has two screens. Excuse me. One of them is USB wall. Not what we want yet. We'll come back to this one. But the other one is this app data executable exceptions and discovery. That's the whitelisting for app data. Click here, and we bring up a totally separate screen. It has one magic button, this one down here called Scan All. If you click on this, third wall will initiate a local scan of every computer in this entire client, be it 5 or 500. And it will bring back to you, a scan of app data roaming and local app data up to 14 layers deep, and it will bring back to you a deduplicated list of everything it finds, and it will deposit that list in the scan results page. So if I go to that page, then here are the results. You can click them one at a time if you want and save, and they will be whitelisted. Or you can, in addition to or instead of, you can go here to the search bar, and we're going to look for Zoom. Click search. It says, hey, we found 10 of them, and there they are. Oh, okay. Very nice. Click OK. We've already got them the check marks there. Just click save, and we will then move them into the current exceptions list. And there is the list of everything that is currently accepted and whitelisted for app data folders. Okay, again, executables that are whitelisted. Very, very powerful way to do this. Now, a couple of quick options. You can add a manual exception by clicking here and just typing in the pathway and file name. And if you want to scan more than just for exe executables, click here, and there are those 30 other executable types that I was telling you about. And again, you'll want to do some of those if you use that one option on the policy for block all executable types. So a lot of power there, a lot of moving parts, really, really powerful at blocking ransomware. The last one on this page is all about stopping terminal server services. This is RDP. RDP is a huge hacker attack point, and this will allow you to effectively stop those attacks by turning off RDP at the service level, either for workstations or servers, or both or neither. Again, depending on what is right for that particular location or environment. All right. Next page down, data IO security. This is all about stopping data theft. Not the kind that hackers do. We got plenty of ways to stop hackers and more to come, but this is all about stopping internal players, people like employees and contractors who have access to confidential data every single day and are prone to steal it. According to Verizon, 59% of them are going to steal some at some point, and that is a scary thought. So you will want to work with your managers, your clients, whoever, to make sure that you are locked down appropriately. So here's some good lockdown options. You can disable write to optical media. Pretty obvious what that does. No more writing to disks. Notice how this one's grayed out. You can choose one or the other, but not both. You can also choose 3 different options for USB protection. This is the most restrictive. This will disable all reading, all writing to all USB storage devices. Pretty straightforward when you do that. Now, that will still allow a mouse and a keyboard, but even in a phone, the storage won't work. You can charge it, but you can't use the storage. If that's too restrictive, maybe downgrade it to this, where you're just disabling write to USB storage devices. Pretty straightforward. And last is enable USB wall. That is the third option. What is USB wall? Well, this is our creation. When you turn this on, we're going to lock down these computers in this location so that they look a lot like this. No more reading or writing to USB storage devices. It's simply not going to work. But you, the IT team, service provider, will be able to register USB devices. Now, as I make this recording, it's just USB sticks, but we're soon to add more types of devices. So for now, today, I'm going to just say USB sticks can be registered. And those that you register will work and nothing else will. So it's a partial lockdown. Let's say you have a client or a manager who has 5 people that they really trust. You register 5 sticks. We recommend you put a special logo on them to both brand yourself and identify them as register sticks. Register them, and then if you're a service provider, sell them to your client for more than you bought them for, or otherwise just hand them out and send them to your client's managers or to your managers. They can get handed out to the appropriate people who are highly trusted, and those people have a USB device that will work, and nothing else will work. Totally locked down, right? One more cool feature with this, that I'm going to go back to the Automate Control Center. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to go to Data Views, our first data view. There is a third wall section now, and there is the USB wall file transfer audit. So if I click on that, you'll see that this shows the file name of all the files written to a registered or any registered USB device. And those are the only ones that work. So this is a comprehensive list of everything written to USB devices. Who did it, when they did it, what computer they did it from. This is a standard Automate data view. You can then export it to Excel and send that to your client or your managers, and they can find out that Bobby has been copying files that Bobby should not be copying, and Bobby gets taken care of that afternoon. So very popular in certain situations to be able to understand who's doing what and have a partial lockdown like this. How do you then register a USB stick? And again, for now, just sticks. Well, you do that actually at the client level, not the location level. So I'm going to go back to the third wall client that I had open earlier. And this is where we did the whitelisting for app data. But I'm going to flip it back to the other screen, this USB wall controls. And I'm going to click on the capture pens. Now, pens is just another name for sticks. Again, we'll encompass more devices soon, but capture pens. And I'm now in the USB wall capture mode. And it's asking me to insert a data stick into this very computer where I'm running Automate Control Center. Yes, that is the rule. You have to do it in an Automate Control Center computer physically. We did that by design to give you very strict controls over which sticks can be registered. Okay, so do that. It takes about 5 seconds to register. Once you're done, you take it out, you can register another one, as many as you want. It takes, again, about 5 seconds to register each stick. When you're done, just click End Capture, and that's it. Pretty straightforward, and then you can send those sticks off to whoever is highly trusted. So that's USB wall. Very popular, very powerful, good option for many of our clients. Let's move on. This one will just simply disable common cloud storage. You recognize this will be an evolving list. By the time you view this, there may be more or add some or take some away. But again, it stops people from dragging and dropping or transferring to some common cloud storage functions. Secure face-based delete, this is a little different. You know that when people delete files, they're not really deleted, just the pointers are. So those files are just sitting out there waiting for some inappropriate person to recover them and take advantage of the fact that they weren't ever erased. So if you want to, you can use this, and we'll do a 3-pass overwrite over all those files that have been deleted on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, and get rid of those ghost files that are there. Okay, so really popular feature again. A lot of our features are popular. So if this appeals to you or to your particular situation, then that could work very well. So let's move on to the next page. Application security. The first one's a bit of a work in progress, but it's helpful. You know, with an Automate, that you can blacklist applications. We'll take that one step further. If you have blacklisted an application within Automate, and we see it on a computer in this location, we will automatically and silently uninstall it. But here's the work in progress. For now, only for MSI files. We don't do executables yet. So that could be coming in the not too distant future, but we haven't gotten around to writing that code yet. Okay, but it's still quite useful and popular. This one is probably much more important from a security purpose, security point of view. Prevent public webmail access. Why? Because phishing on personal emails is still the primary, or excuse me, the most common at least, entry path for malware into small and medium businesses. People can't resist those cute kitty videos, no matter how many times you tell them, don't click on those kinds of attachments. They will. And on their personal email, all of a sudden it's on the work computer, and you're in deep trouble. Okay, so this will again be an evolving list, but you can lock down access to all of these. Very powerful way to do it. Now, this is not a no-brainer. If you do this, people are going to scream. So you go to the CEO of your client or your company and you say, hey, this is what I'd like to do, and this is why. And the CEO says, great idea, let's do that. But I am the CEO. You're not going to stop me from getting to my Gmail, right? And you just nod your head and say, no problem, because remember, you can make an exception to any computer that you want, for any policy that you want, really easily with ThirdWall. A big advantage of ThirdWall over group policy and everything else. So we'll come to that. Same concept with social media. You can stop people from getting to Facebook and Instagram and Tinder. You'll definitely want to make exceptions for the marketing team, amongst others. There are the 3 stores. You know what they are. I won't belabor them. You can block them. These 2 down here are really important, though. Microsoft puts out warnings about these all the time because piggyback malware likes to jump in and piggyback on macros and OLE in Office documents and get into your environment. Now, this only locks them down, disables macros and OLE for outside documents, those downloaded from the internet and those brought in from an outside email domain into a computer. So anybody opens those documents, macros and OLE would be disabled if you have these 2 on, and that will save you at some point. We highly recommend you do that. Next page down, protocol security. I'm going to come back to the 2 Windows firewall ones, but let me start here and go down. These are all various Windows protocols, some of them obsolete, some of them not. All of them are known attack points, and best practice says disable them if you can. And that's an interesting caveat. The classic example is SMBV1, way down here. SMBV1 is the way that WannaCry got around. Not that long ago, a couple of years now. But if you want to stop WannaCry in its tracks, disable SMBV1 and you're good to go. But you may get some phone calls from people saying, hey, how come I can no longer scan to computer? Well, it turns out that a lot of scanners, and particularly all-in-ones, use SMBV1 as their scan to computer protocol, so you may or may not be able to effectively use this, or you may have to make some exceptions to certain computers. So that's true of any of these, other than this audit one, but any of the others could lead to unintended consequences, side effects, if you would, that you may or may not be able to live with. So please test these out in different environments if you've got multiple environments with multiple clients before you deploy them broadly, okay? Because we just can't predict what software or firmware, customer or otherwise, might be impacted by disabling these protocols. But once you've done that, yes, please absolutely deploy these to the larger group, okay? If you want to use Windows Firewall, then you can click one or both of these for workstations or servers, or both. And we will turn on the Windows Firewall and monitor it to make sure it stays on every 5 minutes. That's important with Windows because we've all seen Windows mysteriously get turned off. I have seen it on multiple occasions. This will catch that within 5 minutes and turn it back on, making your vulnerability very limited. So, and also send you a ticket and all the other things I talked to you about. So that's very useful if you want to use the Windows Firewall. If you want to then also assign a rules set for that firewall, then go into your Windows tools on this computer, your Automate Control Center computer, and create a WFW file using, again, Windows tools. Click on this box and we will bring up File Explorer. You just go find that file, double click on it, and we will now be applying that rule set across the board to every computer in this location. So that is pretty popular. Now there is an interesting backdoor. I'm going to switch over back to our website for a minute. Under thirdwall.com, third-wall.com resources again, and I'm on resources, there is a page called instructions. Here's our operational instructions. Highly recommend that you download these instructions and keep them on hand. They describe everything I'm talking about and more. So very thorough and current, so you'll certainly want to download that and have that by your side as you're starting to use ThirdWall. But in it, there is a backdoor, which I don't have time to show you, but you can create a particular kind of configuration file, assign it, and we will do the reverse. We will turn the Windows Firewall off and monitor it to make sure it stays off. A lot of our clients don't want the Windows Firewall on, so at their request, we created that backdoor. So something that might be useful for you. All right, last page and the most fun, security logging and monitoring. Lot of good stuff on this page. Now the first one's kind of interesting. If you've ever used a Windows log file, you know how hard it is to find particular information that's redundant. There's 1,000 different types of logons. It's just almost impossible to find stuff. So when you click on this one, we actually are going to make that log file even worse. Yep, I apologize. It's going to go from default, of which is only capturing logon events, to capturing logon and log off events, both. So that could potentially double the amount of events that it is recording. It makes that harder to use, but don't worry. We come rushing to the rescue with this. Now this policy, when you turn it on, you have to have this one on first. It will take this data, filter it, really good filtering. It took a lot of work to get those filters right. Much more difficult than it sounds. And it will extract from that only the relevant user logon information. User logon, log off, unlock, lock, and logon failure for users only, unless you click that checkbox, which I'll mention in a minute. So then we'll save that data, 60 days worth, in an Automate table and make it available to you in both a report and a data view, all through Automate, of course. So if I go to the report center, here's the report center. Now let's go back to the dashboard. This is the Automate Control Center dashboard for the report center, which you get to via tools within Automate. There is a report list, which I've already got up, and there is the ThirdWall logon report. It is a client level report, so I've selected a client and then just simply click view report, and here is that report. I've already run it. So some things to notice. First off, you can brand it. This is a standard Automate report, so if you've already branded using the Automate report branding tool, then your brand is going to show up there and not ours, which we are perfectly fine with. We do not want you branding us. We want you branding yourselves if that's important to you. Notice that the date is a month plus a day. That's always the duration. You cannot change that. And it runs from not from today when I ran this report, but from yesterday, because we have to do some overnight processing to prepare this in case you want to run it today and make it run efficiently. So it runs yesterday back for a month and a day. Why a month and a day? Because we think you should use the new scheduling wizard within Automate to have this thing scheduled to occur automatically every single month, and then emailed to you and or your managers or your clients automatically. And you can then save it, and that will give you a full archive of user logon events going back to the day that you turned this policy on. So that is why we make it a month and a day. The only things you can change in this report are when you run it and which client you run it on. Everything else is hard coded. You can't change anything else, although you can export if you need to Excel and other things, but standard Automate features. But let's take a look at the report data itself. It is pre-sorted, first by domain and then by user. Okay, so it's easy to find Scott, and yes, that is me. Computer is the next level of sort in case there's more than one computer, and then there is the event, the start time of the event itself. So let's take a look at the events. Logons, unlocks, log on, unlocks, log on, unlocks, log on. Wait a minute, Scott. These are all logon type events. Unlock is just another type of logon, right? Where are the log off type events? Well, they're over here in the end column. We've paired them for you. So for instance, you will see that back on August 31st, I logged on there. I didn't log off until that date in time, 2 days, 18 hours later. Wow, that was a long work day, right? No, hardly. If you look below that, you're going to see an unlock and paired with the lock. Unlock, lock, unlock, lock. Now, every unlock and lock event is a subset of the log on, log off event above it. So these are subsets, and they tell me as the report reader when Scott was actually on his computer, at least it was unlocked, and potentially he was working on it. So this becomes a very interesting thing to find out, oh, when was the computer unlocked? It's more interesting because of this. Let's go all the way back to here to local user account management. Remember I told you I was going to leave password protected screensaver at 5 minutes? Well, let's say there is an employee named Joe, and Joe is not a very good employee. And Joe is working from home, which, as I speak, given coronavirus, is the mode of the day, right? And Joe's boss is a little worried. Oh man, is Joe working well today or not? Well, so Joe gets up in the morning, logs on, maybe at 8:05, a little late, but no big deal. Works for an hour, and then says, I gotta go finish binge watching the rest of that Netflix show. I'm gonna go do that. And he gets up and leaves for 5 hours. What happens 5 minutes after Joe leaves? Computer locks. Whoa. Now, if we go back to this report is going to capture that as a lock event, and Joe's boss will see that his computer was unlocked for an hour and then locked for 5 hours during the workday. You think Joe's boss might like to know that? Yeah, and that's why our clients are making a ton of money off of this report. Ton of money if you're a service provider and get additional revenue. Very popular for managing problem employees. Now, if I go back to the control center, I can right click, do our next data view, which is down in third wall, of course, third wall user login audit. Same exact data, except for we don't pair it, and we have all 60 days worth. So there's a line item for every event, and you can sort it and filter it however you want. You can find out what Scott did. You can find out who was on after hours on Tuesday. So you can, again, sort and filter this, and it's more of a search and forensic tool than it is a reporting tool. So again, really, really useful. You notice that there are failed logons here, but you won't find them on the report itself. We relegated failed logons to the data view screen instead. The reason is you could have a ton of failed logon events, and we didn't want that cluttering up your report, which you may be printing. You certainly should be saving. So that's why, and there's some more nuances to that as well. But most importantly is that right there, including type 3 logon failures. Type 3 is network logon failures. So if you want us to include network logon failures on that data view, click there and we will. Now that becomes important when we come down to here, which I'll show you in a minute. Meantime, we've got enhanced security event logging. This just turns on 15 additional event log type security types that are not turned on by default within Windows, but are required by US HIPAA compliance regulations. So that's why we built this here. If you have HIPAA, you'll probably want to use this. Otherwise, you can learn more about it in our documentation and figure out if you want to use it. It's a true no-brainer. Next one is one of my favorites. Monitor for event log clearing. Why? Because, well, a number of reasons. First off, it's a no-brainer. All this does is send you a ticket. When? When the event log gets cleared, obviously. Why? Because that's what ransomware does, and hackers too. But we built this really looking for ransomware. It buries itself. It loves to cover its tracks by clearing the event log. And when it does that, we will send you a ticket. So if you'd like a ticket when ransomware buries itself in one of your end users' computers, well, buy Third Wall, and this will take care of that for you. Early warning. This is the second of two policies targeted towards ransomware, with the app data blocking being the other one. Okay. This next policy, though, is every bit as popular. Alert on excessive failed logon events. Looking for brute force logon attacks, obviously. And alert's kind of a misnomer. If you look down here, we're actually going to take actions based on what you tell us to do if we detect excessive failed logon events. So what is excessive? Well, you define that. Right now it's set at 2 logon failures per rolling hour. That's a little too sensitive. A lot of fat fingers out there. So I'm going to take it up to 12. 12 user logon failures per rolling hour will trigger whatever you have in this box to happen. Okay. There's an option for ticket only. That makes this a no-brainer, by the way. All it does is send you a ticket when a brute force logon attack is detected, and you can do what you want. The end user will never know. Now, that being said, all of these options will send you a ticket. Each and every one will send you a ticket. So don't worry about that. You will get a ticket. We just had to include a ticket-only option. But there are, for instance, 3 different checkboxes. You can do one of them, run an AV scan, which is we'll kick off your antivirus and send you a ticket, of course. And or you can do lockout. Lockout's going to kick everybody off that computer, everybody, right now. And then it will disable all local accounts. The only way back in is using domain credentials. Now, if that's a workgroup computer with no domain, then, well, you have to reverse it in order for anybody to get into that computer. And you can reverse the lockout on the Automate Third Wall computer screen, which I'll show you in a minute. And then there's isolate. Isolate's designed to stop this attacker from spreading. It will disconnect that computer from everything. Remember the demo I did early at the beginning of this? From everything except for your control or screen connect server and your automate server. So you can still access this computer using your ConnectWise remote tools, but every other computer and network device and everything is protected. Nothing else is connected. And again, isolate is reversible on the Third Wall computer screen. One last option is a radio button. This will do isolate, same isolate function here, and then shut down the computer. So notice there's an asterisk at the end. We do not shut down servers. So that is nope, no shutting down the servers. We'll just isolate it if it's a server. But any computer that we isolate, if it's a workstation, we're going to shut it down. And when it comes back up, it will be isolated, and you can fix it using your remote tools. There is an option here for logon type 3s, which is network logons. Please don't use this until you've done that and cleaned up, seen what's in your environment and cleaned it up. Otherwise, you might get a ton of false alarms. So again, refer to our documentation for more information. We already talked about this one a little bit. Monitor for ransomware attacks. We did a little show and tell to start out with. This is a third of 3 layers of ransomware protection. When you turn it on, we're going to deploy 4 bait files, or honeypots or canary files, to every end user's primary documents folder. Every end user's primary documents folder. And then we're going to put an instantaneous monitor on those files looking for content change. As you saw, if we see content change, we'll interpret that as an attack, a ransomware attack, and we will take the actions that you have described over here. Okay, so you can do a ticket only, again, if you want to. You can do an isolate and shutdown. You can do an AV scan, isolate, and or disable the volume shadow service, all 3 checkboxes. The disable VSS is to protect those volume shadow copies, so from the attacker. Okay, so that's some different options that you've got available to you. Now, with this one, you must choose an Automate alert template from your available alert templates for it to actually work, for you to be able to save it. We recommend that you pick something that's beyond a ticket. We think you should probably choose, create a ticket, create a ticket and raise an alert. That which could be sending somebody an email, phoning them, sending them a text. choose something that's appropriate for the urgency of a ransomware attack in progress. You can alert on delete if you want to. If those files, if you don't have that checkbox checked, then if somebody deletes one of our 4 bait files, no big deal. We just recreate it on the spot. No harm, no foul. But if you click on this, then in addition to changing content causing these actions to happen, so would deleting one of our bait files. Why? Because there are some variants of ransomware that do not encrypt the target. Instead, they create a copy, they encrypt the copy, and they delete the original. So that's what that's all about, okay? It may create more false alarms. Your choice as to whether you want to use it or not. And one other option is hide the bait files. We don't hide them by default. So if you don't want people to see them, you may want to hide them. Even if you do, we recommend you tell people that they're there, so if they have show hidden files, for instance, they won't panic. But what do you tell them are the files that are there? Well, the default name for all of our bait files is third wall. Third wall something. Third wall is the root of the file name, okay? They probably won't know what that is. So we recommend that you go back to the dashboard. So let me go back to the system dashboard. Again, the config integration third wall tab, and there are additional ransomware monitor settings here that are global. Click here and notice that here we have custom file names. So instead of third wall, you can have your company name there. And that'll be the foundation or the base of the file name for the bait files. Much more familiar to your end users. Plus, you can bury those in a subfolder, not just the primary document folder, but you can go down 1 or more levels. And you can introduce 4 additional bait files on top of the originals in a static pathway that you can create whatever you want. And that will go, we'll create it, and we'll put 4 bait files there as well. That's really designed to help you with servers that may not have end users logging in, in which case a static path is much more useful in helping you stop ransomware. There is a help icon here to help walk you through how to apply all of those, but very powerful feature of third wall is all of this with ransomware attacks. All right, so that's enough of that one. Last policy is alert on unencrypted disk. This is going to send you a ticket only, so it's a no-brainer, sort of, if and only if we find internal drives that are not BitLocker encrypted. And we only look for BitLocker. So if you're using other encryption techniques, or if you're not using any encryption at all, please do not use this policy. You will get a ton of tickets. So be aware of that. All right, I'm finally going to go back to the overview page, and I'm going to say, click Save, ready, go, and we will start deploying these policies everywhere to every computer in this entire location. And you can see we got a bunch of green. Now, notice a couple of these are light green. The disable Windows 10 keylogger and disable write to optical media are light green, not dark green. Well, that means active with exceptions. Oh, okay. So let's go take a look at the computer where I made exceptions to those, okay? I'm going to go, well, I need to open that computer, I think. So I'm going to double click here, opening up this computer. This is Joe, by the way. And here's a standard Automate Control Center computer screen. We're going to wait for the plugin to populate, then we're going to right click the plugin and go to third wall. So this is third wall on a single computer. Notice it's color coded. The orange means that the computer exception is enabled. And sure enough, we look here, we are, and you have to read carefully, we are blocking the disable Windows 10 keylogger policy from applying to this computer. So it's an exception. We're also blocking the disable write to optical media policy from applying to this computer. Again, an exception. Now, what do the other colors mean? Green means that the policy at the location level is active and therefore restricting this computer because we haven't made the exception. Yellow means the policy at the location level isn't even turned on yet and therefore isn't impacting this computer at all yet. We can do an exception to either one of those types. On a yellow one, just click on it, click OK, and if later on we disable SMBv1 at the location level, it will be blocked from applying to this computer. We'll never hit this computer. What about if it's green already? For instance, we have restrict local administrator tools policy is in force right now, and nobody can get to registry editor. Oh, you have a technician that needs to get to registry editor. Okay, come here, click the exception switch, and because it's green, we give you 2 choices. You can make a permanent exception so that those restrictions don't apply ever again to this computer as long as the exception's in place, or do a temporary exception. And this is like at the location level where we did a temporary suspension. I get a slider up. Let's say I need 17 minutes to have somebody on site there working on registry editor. Go take the slider up, click save. We have now issued an undo for this one policy on this one computer and removing the restrictions. 17 minutes from now, though, the protection and the restrictions will turn back on automatically. So that's what making exceptions is all about. Okay, now down to the bottom right, we have some various buttons. Now there's some utility buttons. Please go into our documentation and read about these. These two in particular are very important for when you want to move a computer from one location to another location. Okay, please read that. I won't get into it today. These emergency action buttons, though, I will. For them, we've seen isolate and lockout as options on 2 of our policies already, and these are the manual equivalents. So let's say somebody calls up your technician and says, hey, I've got a virus, what should I do? Today, your technician is going to tell them one of 2 things, I can pretty much guarantee. One is turn off that computer now. Stop this thing from spreading, right? Or 2, disconnect that blue cable from the back to, again, stop it from spreading. That's going to be your first priority. Now, how are you going to fix that computer? Yeah, you're going to be rolling a truck. Get the keys out, go get in the truck, and drive. 5 minutes, 5 hours, however far away that client is, that location is, you're driving. So, that's a lot of wasted time and effort and downtime, so let's not do that anymore. Come here, click isolate. We are going to isolate that computer. Remember what isolate does? Disconnects it from everything except the Automate server and the Screen Connect or control server, right? And we have just isolated that computer, just like we did earlier. And the pop-up is shown up saying, hey, it's isolated. And this button now says restore network. So we know that this computer is isolated. I'm going to go fix that computer using my remote ConnectWise tools. Once I'm done, I'm going to click it again and restore network, restore the connectivity, and now it's back to normal. So I've just fixed that computer without ever leaving my desk. Big, big popular feature. The other 3 over here are all about protecting lost or stolen computers. You can just simply lock the screen if you want to. Anybody with credentials can get back in. You can lock out that computer. We've seen that in one of our policies before. It will kick everybody off the computer, then disable all local accounts. Only somebody with domain creds, not cached, we do clear the cache, can get back in to that computer, right? And this is reversible, just like isolate was right here. And then there's annihilate, everybody's favorite. Now, annihilate is user class restricted. You must be a third wall admin to be able to annihilate a computer. And again, nobody is a third wall admin out of the box. So I'm going to click annihilate because I am a third wall admin, and I get 2 choices. I can do a quick annihilate, which will delete the documents folder and then destroy the operating system. Happens pretty quickly. Okay. Or I can do a secure annihilate, which will do the same thing, but before it destroys the operating system, it will do a 3-pass overwrite over all those files that you just deleted so that nobody can then later yank the hard drive and recover those files on another computer. So if I choose one of those, I still have to click annihilate to get this done, and then I have to enter my valid Automate username in order to continue. There's no such thing as an accidental annihilation. We have plenty of safeguards in place. Okay? I'm just going to click cancel for now. And by the way, we do log all of the third wall commands that you and your fellow technicians make over the last 60 days. That's available in some data views. All right, let me go back to this screen. Now we did this and we did a whole bunch of policies on one location. Well, that's not very efficient, Scott. I have 5, 10, 50. We have one client who has 3,000 locations. So, one policy at a time is probably not the right answer. So we created profiles down here. And this is how profiles work. I can create on a location. The location doesn't even have to have computers on it. In fact, we recommend that you do this on a location that never has any computers on it. Create a new location to do it. And then I'm going to save, after I've come up with a configuration of policies and settings, I'm going to save that as a profile. I'll name it whatever I want. I'm going to name it Scott because that's what I do. It already exists. I'm going to overwrite it and OK. So I've just created a profile named Scott, and this is it. And I can now apply that elsewhere to other locations. But before I do that, let me digress for a second and come back to profiles. You see this arrow down here on the bottom left? This is an undo all from this entire location. Very useful for offboarding, as you might imagine. So I'm going to click here, click yes, I want to get rid of these. No, I don't want to abort. And all of them go away. So we just issued undos for everything that was active on this location. Okay. Now I'm going to go back here to the profiles. This drop-down list is user class protected as well. If you're not a third level admin, you cannot use this. You'll get an error. But click here. There is Scott. And a bunch of blue shows up. Okay, blue means pending changes by profile. Now I can hit save, the green save button, it's there, and I would save all these policies and their settings and apply them to every computer in this location. I wouldn't have to do it one policy at a time. I can do the whole profile at once. So that saves me a ton of work, but I have other options as well. So instead of clicking save, I could instead click apply profile. Click apply profile, and look, I have three options. I can save it and apply it to this location, or to every location in this entire client, or to every client, every single location. Whoa, that's pretty powerful. That's pretty powerful. That's why this is third wall admin use only. All right. I'm actually going to cancel this one, and I'm going to show you and clear the profile. I'm going to show you a different one just so I can demonstrate a property or two. I'm going to use this one called third wall no-brainers. Now this is built in to third wall. We really recommend that you create your own no-brainers profile with those that you think are no-brainers. Remember, those are ones that no end users are going to even notice. But there we go. There's a bunch of blue. Again, pending changes by profile, waiting for me to do something. I'm going to apply the profile to this entire client. Let's just do that. But a lot of our clients will deploy a bunch of no-brainers to every single location they manage. Okay, so we've just deployed this to this entire client. Now I'm going to go and interview my client. And again, a client can be an internal or external client for you. But I'm going to go interview them and find out what else they want on top of no-brainers. And in fact, if you go to our website, you're going to see under onboard your clients, a couple of documents here. This one, this one, the onboarding document and the onboarding checklist. Please look at those when you get a chance. They are going to help you to interview your end users, your clients managers, and find out what additional policies on top of no-brainers you're going to deploy, okay? So let's say I went and interviewed my client and I came up with one. I'm going to call it profile for client ABC, but I don't have that here, so I'll just use, I think data security is a good surrogate. So I got extra profile loaded up. Another one. I'm going to apply this profile to the entire client. Click save. And yep, I'm going to apply it everywhere. And there you go. These three turned green. What happened to all the other things that were already there? Nothing. Or at least they didn't go away. Profiles, when you apply them, apply on top of whatever is already there. They never, never, never undo what is there. So I could have a one policy profile and deploy it, and it would not remove anything else that's already there. Really important property of profiles. They can modify, they can add, they cannot undo or remove. Okay, so that way you can layer policies on top of other profiles on top of other profiles, or even policies that were put there without using profiles, and it will not remove any of them. The second property of profiles that's really important is I can now go in and I can add or remove undo policies and customize this location, and the profile won't care. So I've just modified the settings on this location so that they're different than what the profiles said. But the profiles do not come back and check to see if a location conforms to the profile. They're just a stamp in time. Think, oh, I need these policies right now, and then the profile doesn't care anymore. That way you can customize every single location the way that you want to. So that's profiles. All right, one last thing to show you, and I'm done for a long demo. Thanks for sticking with me. Going back to the report center, And to the report list, we have one more report called the client audit report. It is a client level report again. I'm going to go to third wall and generate it by clicking view report. Again, you can automate this if you want to. And it will show you for that client and within the client by location, since every location can be customized, every policy that's currently turned on, when it was turned on and has been checked every 5 minutes since then, and every current exception that is active on any policy that's active in that location. So that is something you can hand to your clients, to your customers, to your managers, to your auditors to prove the protection that you are providing with third wall. So that is the essence of third wall. There's some more nuances that I don't have time to go into, but I think you probably get the idea. It is extremely powerful in helping you to manage the security in your environment with 58 different policies, with exceptions, with reports, with some data views. We didn't even look at all the data views. You've got a ton of power at your fingertips. So please, if you haven't, sign up for a trial. If you have, please dive in and start it on our website. You'll see the request a trial all over the place on the right side, and jump in and try out third wall, and you're going to love it. We do support our trials. Just go to contact us, and there is technical support, and you will have our help shortly thereafter. Okay. If you've got questions, just reach out to us, but I hope that you learned something, and I certainly hope that you are convinced that third wall is something not only worth trying, but worth having to help protect your environment. Thank you for your time, and let us know if you have any questions at all.